Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Quinn Roels.
Hello, I'm Brandy Roels. And this is our baby, little Luna Roels. Her onesie says, this actually is my first rodeo.
It's the first time for everything, right?
Yeah, totally.
And this is our birth story. Well, her birth, it's Luna's birth story.
Yeah, so we're probably going to be a tad graphic in our story just so you can be a little prepared on what's coming your way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you start us off because you were awake for the start of it.
So, let's see. It was like Saturday night, like into Sunday. It was almost 2 a.m. I was getting up to go to the bathroom for like the millionth time.
11 days ago, by the way.
Yeah,
right?
11 days ago.
Like brand new baby.
Yeah, she'll be 2 weeks old in a couple of days here. Good, our dogs are going. Good.
Just keep going.
So, it's almost 2 a.m. I go to the bathroom and there's just this gush of liquid that ends up coming out. And I was like, man, this literally could be it. I have no idea. And I tried to get up and I just couldn't because it kept coming.
We had like a false labor and 2 kidney stones that we thought were labor, so it just became completely unbelievable that we were actually going to start at some point.
Yeah, for real. So, I wanted to get Quinn to tell him what was going on, and I just was too afraid to leave the toilet. So I tried saying his name a ton of times and nothing. And then I actually called his phone and nothing. So I had to get up. And I go in there and I wake him up.
Pretty sure you hit me, by the way.
I did not hit you.
Okay.
I didn't hit him. So I got him up and I was like, oh my gosh, I've been trying to call you forever. Please come to the bathroom.
I was like, wow, what's going on? I thought it was going to be another kidney stone or something.
So I tell him that I think that my water started to break. And I call the midwives because we were seeing the Ascension Providence midwife group. So I give them a call, I tell them what's going on, and I'm not having any contractions at that point, so we
They just told us to stay in
and
wait it out.
They told me to have a snack, so I ate a banana.
It's all you could keep down, really.
Well, at the time it didn't really matter. But then I started having some slight contraction-y feelings. I didn't know what to expect. Because I had so many Braxton Hicks contractions, I
have no idea
for
whether
the past few months.
Yeah, you had so many, and you were like, well, I'll never know, if I'm actually gonna know the difference between a Braxton Hicks contraction and an actual contraction.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it just kept happening. There was just no way to tell, really.
She's so sleepy.
Yeah?
I think I'm gonna put her down.
Okay. So at that point, I was like, okay, let's hunker in. Let's do the whole wait it out thing, because you got to wait until you're right there, the 411. So I got out the contraction timer and I started timing them, and we turned on a movie, and then we just kind of started laying in bed, and then it really started going pretty quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, so we called the midwives again, and I can remember trying to talk to her, and then I just straight up handed the phone to Quinn because I couldn't really talk that well anymore during the contractions. So she said, if we felt like going in, we could. And at some point, I was like, I guess we should go in.
No, because you never knew what to do. You were like, I don't know if this is real. I don't know what's happening. And finally, at one point, I was I looked at all the times, and they were 4-ish minutes apart. 1 minute, 1 minute duration. It had been about an hour or so, and just your demeanor was kind of getting to the point where it wasn't I don't know, it wasn't really transition, but it was definitely that you were in labor. It was definitely happening, and I was she can't really make it through a lot of stuff. We might as well go in because it could start at any point here, So the car's been packed for a week at this point, since we've had so many different false labors and false starts and everything.
Yeah.
So we were just ready to go, but it was pouring rain. So much rain. It was ridiculous.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
So it was about 6 a.m. when we left. So the whole thing started at almost 2 a.m. Yeah, so we're driving there. We get every single red light. It's about a 30-minute drive. We were going to the alternative birth center. So we finally make it there, making sure that we grabbed all the stuff from the car, and it was still pouring rain. We get in there.
Yeah. While you remember this part, I'm just going to put them in their kennels. It's too much.
We have 2 dogs. It's a bit much in the background here. But we get there, and they tell us where to go for the ABC. And a nurse ends up meeting us. She was really nice if you end up going there. Her name was Kelly, right? Or Christy.
It was Christy.
And
you're like hiding behind the stroller now. What is this?
Oh my gosh, she's moving the whole stroller.
Oh.
All right.
Brandy.
Anyway, so she makes me do a COVID test while I'm in labor. That was a real hoot. And then she she takes us to the room. There's a nice tub in there, a queen size bed, a little fridge, private bathroom.
Yeah.
So it was definitely a wonderful setup.
So I know that you were like definitely still in labor at that point and having like a rough go. You didn't lay down right at first. You just kind of leaned over the bed, and that was your position for a real long time. And I set everything up. I unpacked like everything that we would need, kind of had it all around, put stuff in the fridge, got her water ready, and then just kind of like settled in, you know?
Yeah, I don't really remember at what point though I did end up taking off my pants and underwear. I just like was wearing a shirt for like a good while.
I remember just trying to like just get it off of you at some point because like the whole time her contractions were 4 minutes apart, 1 minute long. The duration didn't matter. It hovered around there. Sometimes they were 5 minutes apart. Sometimes they were right on top of each other. So it just seemed like she was in like that transition phase or just like, you know, real close to it for the longest time. But she was still able to talk through all of your contractions, you know, and you were still kind of doing fine. But she'd stood up for so long, kind of like you had stood at the side of the bed with your hands on the bed.
So I was like leaning over the bed on my hands, and it was just like, it just kept coming, and it was terrible. I felt it. At first it was starting like in my back and then wrapping around to the front, you know, like low back pain, then menstrual cramp type of pain. And they were telling me that I needed to like try some other positions, like getting on all fours on the bed and having my butt up in the air, because it felt like Luna,
she was
like
having the back labor.
Yeah, she was sunny side up.
Yeah, that's what they said. And I remember we tried that position, and they said the first 2 contractions in any new position is going to suck. And they definitely did. And but you powered through, and we kind of did like 30-minute increments in different positions before we went back to the standing one. And I remember I was checking in with you, practicing breathing.
My goodness, going to the bathroom was terrible. I remember like needing to pee like kind of often, and every time I would sit down on the toilet, it was just so painful. It was like nonstop back and front pain action happening. It made me just like not able to relax and pee. It was terrible.
Yeah, I was just kind of an innocent bystander for most of this. I feel like she did a really great job. I barely needed to tell her how to breathe. I don't even know if like she lost her breath sometimes, and I would go, find your breath, just remember.
Yeah.
You know, do the deep breathing, get in your belly breathing, get in your diaphragm and everything, and just she would get back on it, but I could never really tell if it's because I said anything or not, but I was at least there.
Yeah, it was.
Okay,
like,
good.
Yeah, every time he would like say something, it definitely helped me out, helped me kind of like remember how to, I guess, can't think of the right word, like properly do this. And it was kind of hard to like relax through the contractions. Like normally, like when we were practicing side lying and stuff, and we would try to like practice tensing and relaxing, I was never able to tense up my body in the practice. But in real life, I was tensing up.
So, we're going through, and around like, when did you get in the tub? Like midday, a little bit later? It was later than midday.
I feel like it might have been around like noon to 1 p.m.
Yeah.
So on Sunday.
Yeah, so...
It was all happening on Sunday.
So she was, like I said, she was standing up like the whole time, and then I remember she was just complaining constantly about like leg fatigue, you know, and just, you know, her feet hurt and everything. And I think we tried different positions where she was on the ball so she could rest her legs, but I just knew she was just using too much of her energy because she couldn't eat anything. It was the middle of the night, so you hadn't really had anything besides that banana. I think you got like a bite of Rice Krispies treat, and then you didn't eat anything else we brought.
I kept telling everybody I tried to eat one almond, and I literally thought I was gonna die eating an almond.
Yeah. Ugh. So at that point, we were like, okay, let's get in the tub. They had said like the tub was kind of like a more of a last resort, and you don't want to abuse it. We changed nurses twice, I think. Christy was there at the beginning, and she said, you're only going to want 20 minutes in the tub, and then 40 minutes out of the tub, and then 20 minutes in the, to kind of pace it.
Yeah, and then we got a new nurse, Diane.
And they were just like, oh, yeah, just stay in there. Just do it. And I was like, all right, whatever, Yeah. So, but I think that was a better position. You were able to rest your legs finally,
Yeah, so the tub was really nice. I'm fully naked at this point, for sure.
I wore a bathing suit. I was not, they don't let husbands be naked. I asked.
So, they tell you that you're allowed to pee in the tub, which makes me think, who else is peeing in this tub? But I ended up peeing in the tub. He asked if he could pee in the tub at one point, and I was like, no, only I can pee in the tub and pee on you.
That was fun.
I was eating Werther's Originals, just sucking on them. That was kind of helpful.
We had brought like a few high energy snacks, and she really likes Werther's, and it's pretty much just sugar, so
yeah,
this is about as close as we could get to something she could keep down anyway.
Yeah, so he had like a pitcher type of thing that he was pouring some...
Little bath toy.
Yeah, pouring water on my belly, and that was really nice, but the contractions in the tub felt terrible.
Yeah, they were definitely getting stronger. It was still kind of that timing anywhere, like hovering around 4, sometimes right on top of each other, sometimes a bit longer.
Yeah.
Like the timing never changed until the end,
Yeah, so here and there, the nurse, Diane, would come in and check on us. Midwife would come in. Andrea was there.
Yeah.
The midwife, Andrea. She's really nice. And
everyone wanted to check in on you when you got there. I remember they had checked you, I think, when
we first got there, it was 4 centimeters dilated.
Yeah, and we got out of the tub.
Yeah.
Right? And then dried you off. I think you just remained naked. I actually didn't get a chance to change. I was wearing this black shirt and then some...
trunks?
Just the trunks still. Yeah. The bed's fine. I could get it a little wet. But at that point, you were like in the zone,
Yeah.
That was definitely like transition. It was the hardest point. The contractions were like you super focused. You did a lot of sleep.
Yeah, like weird sleep in between. I went into side lying.
Sleep imitation. That's sleep imitation. That's it.
So he was like, let's get her back in here. We're going to do a vaginal exam. And so Andrea, the midwife, comes in, and I'm inside lying, and...
It's the only position she could really do at that point.
I couldn't turn over to open my legs.
You had lost so much energy, and everything hurt at that point that it was just real hard to do anything,
So I was inside lying for a while, and they kept saying, like, oh, you need to, like...
Flip over every 30 minutes. And I remember they came in and they waited like 30, 40 minutes for her to see if she could get into the position for the exam. But then we just flipped her over. Then I flipped her back. Then we flipped over. And then I flipped her back. And then I just remember it got to a point. She did the thing. She did the thing where she said, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, I said it one time.
I said it one time. And then everyone in the room was there at that point.
Yeah.
So that was good. And we were all like, no, you're doing it now. Positive, getting all the encouragement in there. I think she responded really well when we said, you are doing it. I just kept saying, you've made it so far. You've been through so much.
Yeah.
You got this. You're so strong. You're handling it all well. Just one contraction at a time. We're going to get through this.
Yeah. So eventually I ended up doing the vaginal exam, and I was 8 centimeters dilated.
Yeah. I just knew she got to this point where she was just getting so tired, and I knew that like the pushing is going to take a lot. So I figured in my head, we just got to check. We got to get someone in here to check. I just feeling out the situation, because if it's not going to be now, if we get any more labor in here, she might just not have the energy in order to push the baby out. So we just might as well check. So
what's crazy is like at around that time, my body totally started like pushing on its own, and it was really weird. I'm in the side lying. They got out the peanut ball, and I had my legs open in the peanut ball on my side. And my body, like, with the contractions, just started, like, pushing. And we learned to do, like, maybe 2 to 3 pushes with one contraction, but my body was doing like 4 to 6 pushes during a contraction.
It was crazy. But I mean, you listen to your body, and the midwives were just in the room at that point.
Just one midwife.
Well, the midwife was in the room at that point, just, paying attention to everything. So that made everything seem okay. And then it got to the point, the pushing started happening, and then I remember looking, and it was the craziest thing. So you've seen your wife's belly. There's a baby in there. It's round. You push it. It's firm and everything. At some point in labor, I felt, and I was like where the top was, and I was like, there's nothing there anymore. It's definitely lower. But at this point, so like she pushed, and you could see the whole stomach just go... And then you could see the outline of the uterus just really low. And I was like, oh my gosh, everything's gone. It's all getting pushed in there. I
did not see it.
I didn't verbalize any of this. Just kept that to myself. Like, you're doing great, Brandy. Everything's fine.
Yeah. So, I'm pushing in the side lying, and then they take the peanut ball away. And I was like, why did you take that away? It was like... the one thing that was wonderful.
Yeah.
So yeah, Quinn is holding my leg up instead of the peanut ball, and Andrea's like, because I'm saying, why'd you take that away? And I'm kind of laughing.
Uh-huh.
And she's just like, well, I need to see in there. So they tell me that I need to get on my back, and like...
No. So,
right?
I mean, there was a bit more pushing before you got to that point, because I remember I had the leg on that side, and then... I kept checking down there to see, because I was expecting, like, it opens up, and then there's, like, a hole, and then the baby comes through, right? But no, so, like, everything looked normal, fine, and then there's, like, pushing and then moving, and, stuff's gonna come out and everything, and then Andrea was like, there's the head right there, and I was like, hey, so we do kind of see something, I guess, and then I remember, she was like, I was like, oh, yeah, I can see, like, hair. So
she tells me to, like... hold the baby's head there, like
touch it. You wanted to touch it.
No, I know, but like she's telling me you got to keep it there.
Oh yeah, you got to push and then hold it.
Yeah. So figuring that out, I don't think it was that hard, but like it's a little weird at first. Like what? So I'm keeping the head there, and then Andrea was like, "Brandy, you should feel down and touch the head. Go ahead." And so like I reached down. And I'm just like, that's really gross. And I'm laughing about it.
She says it like that, but she was like, it's gross. Just like kind of like a side note as she's just like laying there having extreme labor pains.
Yeah.
So at that point, I remember, so this is where it gets like really scary, right?
Yeah.
And so you start pushing and we see the head, and all these people just start coming in. They just start coming in. There's the midwife, there's the on-call nurse, there's the person that's going to take a look at the baby afterwards. Mm-hmm. I think there was a fourth person in there.
Yeah, there was like 4 or 5 ladies.
4 or 5 people in there at some point. But like when the baby's like there, it's like go time. They get everyone in there to get things ready. So they're checking her heart rate, and it's at like 125. And then
Luna's heart rate.
Luna's heart rate's at 125, and then she does the push, and then you can see the head, and then they like check it again, and they're like, okay, yeah, like 105, 110, and they're like, that's the contraction reduction. They had a name for it, but once the baby enters the birth canal, the heart rate drops like a few heartbeats. Head compression, and it drops a few heartbeats. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm like, okay, that's fine. And so she's doing some more pushing, but there's not a lot of progression. Quick side note, it does not look like a head that comes out. It looks like...
You can say it,
it looks like a scrotum. It looks like scrotal skin. It's really baggy and like wrinkly. Maybe not all babies. Luna's head looked like a scrotum coming out of...
loose skin.
Loose skin. It was disgusting. And she was touching it and moving it around, and I was convinced Luna had some kind of brain damage because of that. She's fine. It's totally normal. Anyway...
So yeah, Quinn ends up watching the whole thing. I didn't think he would end up watching it, but
I still didn't capture anything. He was next
to me.
I still didn't capture anything, but I helped.
He was next to me on the bed, but he was like, you were sitting so that you could look.
So yeah, then they told you to get on your side because your back, because then they took one more like thing, and I was there looking at like the heart rates the whole time, and it drops to like 60, and I was like, well, they just told me that like the drop happened already. And then I remember, like, the whole mood in the room changed as soon as they took that measurement. Like, people were pushing me out of the way. They're like, grab the other leg. Go around the side. And I'm grabbing the leg. And then the energy's just, like, in the room is just rising. And the tension's just there. And she's like, all right, Brandy, you gotta push. We gotta get this baby out of there, you know? And I'm just like, what's happening? You know, I'm doing my best to stay positive and just like tell Brandy to push, remind her to breathe, be there for support and everything. But I'm freaking out on the inside at this point.
Yeah.
And so then the midwife, Andrea, is just like poking her fingers in there and going around the head. And they're like, we gotta get this baby out of here right now. And then
so she was just like, Brandy, you're getting on your back. They like roll me onto my back. And Andrea says, okay, you can no longer just push with contractions. You have to just keep pushing. Like, just, you got to do it.
And then so I was on the left leg and the right leg, and I was they were like, you got to push it back, push it back. And then there was another nurse, and she was pushing the other leg back, and everyone's screaming, push!
No, they told me to hold my legs.
Oh,
like I had to like hold up my legs.
And we helped. I feel like we pushed back even more to open it up.
I don't know, but I had to hold my legs. Everybody's screaming at me to push. It's very overwhelming. The
other woman on the other leg's got like a phone. She's like on the phone. Like, oh, we need a vacuum in here right now. We need to get someone down there right here right now. And there's like there's people wandering in and out, getting things ready. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening right now? What's wrong? This whole thing's going sideways, you know?
Yeah. So in my mind, as soon as I hear the word vacuum, I think that's not going to happen. And I feel like I'm pushing like as much as I can, but I guess I'm going to have to do more because there's no way I'm letting them do the vacuum. So I just keep pushing and they're screaming at me. A lady like hands me like a blanket or a towel.
And like pulling the blanket.
Like, for me to like pull back so I can like pull up for like pushing. And they're yelling at me to like push from my butt. And that's very confusing. So I guess like instead of just like pushing forward that does nothing, like somehow focusing your pushing into your butt is the way to get the baby out. And like for anybody who's worried, like I was worried about pooping themselves, like I ended up pooping myself. And like Andrea, I don't know why, but for some reason her finger was in my butt.
There was fingers all over the place.
I don't know if that was like helping get the baby's head out. I don't know.
Thought she was, because she had hands everywhere. And then just, I thought she was trying to get like, leverage on it or something. I don't know.
So, could feel the poop coming out. I could feel the baby coming out. There's almost like this feeling of like pulling out a dry tampon is what the whole thing kind of felt like to me in my vagina.
I wouldn't know.
No. And then, what was I gonna say?
Well, you want to get into the part where the baby comes out?
There was like gushing too. There's definitely like liquid happening.
So I remember the scrotum thing. Her head, whatever. I see that and I'm like, in my head, what I'm looking at's too small to be a baby's head. And then the head comes out. After that part's visible and you think that's the head, it's not the head. Because then the whole thing comes out and then it like expands into like, oh, that's the head right there. And then that started to come out and then I just blacked out. I was awake and I was holding and I was yelling and I was encouraging. I don't remember any of it though, because then the baby just, and then like, there was all kinds of stuff happening. The most terrifying thing, baby wasn't breathing. She was entirely purple, did not look right. And then they just throw her on the chest and then they do the whole shake and rub thing and she's just
It wasn't a shake and rub. She was like, they put her on my chest and then a lady like was towel drying her, I guess.
Yeah, but she just wasn't responding or anything and was just limp.
And she was like, okay, we have to take her away just to like check everything.
Right before they took her though, there was like this one moment. I remember she wasn't breathing and I was freaking out because of everything that had been happening. And then I just hear like one wet cough, just this like kind of like that thing. And I'm like, oh my God. And then they're like, we got to take her away. And then they're cutting cords and they're doing all this other stuff.
They did cut the cord kind of quickly.
Instantly.
I feel like it was because they needed to check her.
It wasn't because they needed to check her and because she was getting strangled by the cord.
Oh yeah, so the cord was around her neck.
So that's just, she was shell-shocked from the whole experience and she was getting strangled by the cord. It was too tight around her neck is what happened. Because sometimes it's not, sometimes it's fine, but I guess this time it was really bad.
Yeah.
You know, and so they take her away, and I'm still freaking out because all I heard was the wet cough, and there's still people running around, and there's this air of tension. I have no idea how much time's passing. I'm like, I've never felt so nervous and just like, you know, inside, and then I finally hear her cough for real, and then start to do the whole like wet cry thing afterwards and everything, and then they're like, oh, she's breathing wonderfully, she has a great heartbeat, and I just start bawling.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I can remember looking up at him, and he was just crying. It was a very intense moment there.
Well, they were fine. Then they bring her back, and then she's crying, and she's awake.
They put her back on my chest, and like she opened her eyes like right away.
Very alert afterwards, and they were like, "Oh, she's just a little shell shocked. Just hold her. It's fine. Everything's fine." And I'm like,
yeah. So Andrea's still down there, just looking around at things, seeing if I had any tears. I did not tear. I did have like a hint of something on my right labia, which I guess they call a skid mark. It was just like...
Classy.
It was just like a tiny hint of something, and she was like, I don't know if I should sew this up. It doesn't seem like it needs it. And I was like, yeah, don't then. No, just don't. Just leave it. It'll probably heal. And she was like, okay, I'll just leave it then. But everything else was fine down there. And then I had to push out the placenta. And she's just kind of like hanging out. And I'm thinking, okay, when are we going to do this? I'd like to just get it done, you know? At that point, I had like a second wind. I had so much energy. It was crazy.
She was out for like, so it was almost 12 solid hours of labor.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a little short for the first labor, but I mean, everything turned out fine.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Pushing was only like 45 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And so she gets like inconsolable most of the time, and then just sleep imitation for the latter half of it, and then just, you know, completely out of it, not responsive, and then baby's out and boom, she's with it. Just all of a sudden she's there. Like nothing happened almost.
Yeah, I'm like joking around with the nurses and stuff.
It was crazy.
So at some point I'm just like, so do you want me to start pushing for the placenta? And she was like, well, only if you're ready to. I was like, yeah, let's do this. Let's just get it done.
Let's get all this over with.
Yeah, I pushed that out. It wasn't as bad. I feel like it was relatively quick. Mm-hmm. And then, like within 5 minutes, it was very short. It came right out. And then she asked if we want it. We did not want it.
It looks kind of like a jellyfish stingray thing, or like something out of Alien.
Yeah, I keep saying that it looks like Alien from Alien.
Pretty gross.
So she was like, Brandy, do you want to see your placenta? And
they just
like,
think everyone's fascinated by this stuff, and they're like, they keep it in a tin next to your bed, and they're like, check all this stuff out.
So she holds it up. It was so insane.
It's gross.
She holds it up, and she's like, it kind of looks like a tree because of all these, I don't know what it's called, but I'm just like, yeah, okay. And then she opens the placenta, and
horrible.
She's just like,
there's where your baby was.
Luna came out of this opening in your placenta. And so we're like, wow, cool. I thought it was fascinating.
They were there by the placenta too, and they were fascinated by it, and they were having their own kind of fun.
Oh,
they're like,
they
oh,
did.
look. Yeah. Oh, they were like, oh, look at this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Is everything, what's going on over there?
Maybe they saved it for themselves. But anyway, she had informed us that at some point my placenta detached.
A little part of it.
Yeah.
And you could see the floppy, gross, disgusting part of it.
So
she held it up for us too.
Yeah, then she was like, well, do you want to take a picture? And I was like, yeah, Quinn, go take a picture.
Not on my phone.
So he hands my phone to a nurse to take the picture. It's still on my phone, and every time I'm scrolling through pictures of Luna to like show or like send pictures to people, I see the placenta picture, and it's just very jarring.
Pretty sure you took a picture of the placenta before you took a picture of our baby.
Yeah, well, I think that was the first thing that like really happened. Mm-hmm. But they ended up like leaving pretty soon after, and we just like had family time. Crazy
amount of like excitement and energy that goes into giving the birth, and all that, you know, closeness and all that terrifyingness and emotions and crying. It all gets like, it all is very quick at the end. It all leads up to that, and then boom, you have a baby and they're out, and then it's dark, and then you're like, we got a baby now.
So she was born at 3:14 p.m.
You want to hold her up?
Yeah, I'll hold her up again. She's sleeping. Ooh. She just figured out how to use a pacifier. It's very soothing for her.
You can say what you want about everything. It's the only way she'll sleep. She's constantly doing all kinds of stuff, and she doesn't want nipple or anything else. She doesn't want food. She just wants to suck on something. So
well, she is always wanting to suck on my nipple. Like, It's just exhausting.
But she's lovely. She got home. Well, we stayed the night. We have to stay the whole 24 hours. Everything was fine. She almost lost a pound. We were on kind of like the cusp of, it being too much.
So she was born at 7 pounds 4 ounces, and then when we left the ABC, she was at 6 pounds 12 ounces. Mm-hmm. So by the time we ended up seeing the pediatrician in a couple of days, she had lost a pound from her birth weight.
She was 6'4" when we took her into the pediatrician. And she wasn't pooping. She pooped like 3 times.
No, it was more than 3 times.
4 times, at the ABC within 24 hours, and a lot too. Like each time was an extravagant amount of poop, and then just nothing for about 3.5 days.
Yeah.
And after everything, I just couldn't calm down about it. Just staying up at night and everything. And you look up like, oh, sometimes babies just don't poop. I remember I got to the point where I called them on call on Saturday. The pediatrician and they paged the pediatrician, and when we saw her on Thursday, she was like, it's normal for them at this point to be pooping about 4 times a day up until they're 6 days, and then it's 6 to 8 times a day. That's what you're aiming for. That's how you know they're getting enough food. And I'm like, oh, she's not pooping at all. I mean, she started peeing, but she's not pooping. She's not getting the right amount of nutrition. Should we be supplementing?
Yeah,
Should we be pumping?
I've been breastfeeding.
Yeah.
Like ever since the beginning, and latching at first was hard. She's still she's good at latching, but it's just been kind of like up and down, like with the milk production. At some point, I had a lot of milk. Now I don't anymore. It's kind of weird, but I'm still doing breastfeeding and now pumping.
She's fine. She's pooping and peeing like nobody's business now.
She finally ended up having a big poop explosion.
Yeah, a huge one. Just like all of a sudden we open her diaper and it's just like, band to band, front to back, filled with poop.
The things that make you excited as a parent.
Took pictures of it. It was so exciting to finally see her poop, especially that much. And then ever since then, she's been pooping pretty fine. And what upset me is the fact that I called the pediatrician, and they're like, oh yeah, that's normal. And
the same pediatrician.
The same pediatrician was like, that's also normal for them just not to poop for like days.
She made us worried for nothing.
But yeah. I know that there's one piece of advice that I have, we got this baby book called Crib Sheet that's database and everything. And the one thing that you find when you look at the data for any baby, and this is what the phrase, every baby is different, every pregnancy is different, every labor is different comes from, is there is an average for any data set. There's going to be a middle of the road. There's going to be something you can tell someone. But the range of where you fall, how many less poops a day and how many more poops a day is so wide that it's almost impossible to fall in the average. Your baby's going to be different. But, I mean, if she looks healthy, if she seems healthy, she's probably healthy and it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, but now she's here and we love her. She's doing great. Just gotta figure out sleeping and eating.
Yeah.
Still learning.
I don't think I have any advice, but...
You're doing great, sweetie.
It was quite an experience, and afterward, I'm healing fine, and I ended up, immediately going back to, 2-month pregnancy size, really quickly. Mm-hmm. Ended up losing, everything. It's pretty crazy.
It's pretty neat how, quickly you kind of snap back to the way things are, except the fact that you have a baby,
But yeah, it was all natural birth, no medication, no machines, no interventions.
Mm-hmm. A little touch and go at the end, but everything turned out fine.
Yep, and now she's here.
Yay!
Everything is wonderful. I definitely can't stop holding her, other than when I did stop holding her for this film.
Yeah, always holding her. Always. Never me.
Anyway, that is our birth story. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. Bye.
No. Oh, there it is. Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.